First, Josephus. Josephus was a Jewish historian and military leader in the 1st century who, after being captured by the Romans, became a historian supported by Rome. He mainly recorded the history of the Jews and the Jewish region during the Roman period, with his major works including the Jewish War and Antiquities of the Jews. In Antiquities of the Jews, Josephus mentions Jesus Christ. This section is one of the most famous non-Christian references to the historical existence of Jesus. Josephus refers to Jesus as a wise man, a doer of miracles, and the Christ, stating that he was crucified by the Roman governor Pontius Pilate upon the accusations of the Jewish leaders. Additionally, he mentions that Jesus resurrected after his death and that his followers continued to follow him. Second, Thallus. Thallus was a 1st century historian and one of the earliest non-Christian writers to mention Jesus Christ. Although his works are not extant today, they are cited by the 3rd century historian Julius Africanus. Thallus wrote about the darkness and earthquake that occurred during Jesus' crucifixion, and attempted to explain these events as natural phenomena. Julius Africanus, in quoting Thallus, records the darkness and earthquake that happened during the crucifixion of Jesus. Thallus attempted to provide a natural explanation for these phenomena, but such records indirectly support the historicity of the events that occurred during Jesus' crucifixion. This is notable because it mentions significant moments of Jesus' death from a non-Christian perspective. Third, Tacitus. Tacitus was a Roman historian active in the late 1st and early 2nd centuries, known for his deep insights into Roman history and his exceptional writing style. He primarily recorded the history of the Roman Empire, covering political, social, and military events. In his major work, Annals, Tacitus mentions Jesus Christ and early Christians while discussing the persecution of Christians following the Great Fire of Rome under Emperor Nero. Tacitus records that Jesus was executed by the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. This is an important independent confirmation of Jesus' existence and his execution by Roman authorities outside of the Christian scriptures. Tacitus' writings emphasize that Jesus was a historical figure whose death significantly impacted the early Christian community. Additionally, Tacitus mentions that Christians were blamed and persecuted by Nero for the Great Fire, providing historical context for the challenges and persecutions faced by the early Christian community. Fourth, Mara bar Serapion. Mara bar Serapion was a Syrian philosopher in the 1st century. He mentions Jesus Christ in a letter to his son. Although the letter is not dated, it appears to have been written after Jesus' death. This letter remains an early non-Christian document considered important evidence of Jesus. In the letter, Mara bar Serapion refers to Jesus as a wise king, and states that the Jews executed this wise king, resulting in the destruction of their kingdom. This suggests that Jesus was not only a religious figure, but also an influential person whose death had social and historical repercussions. Mara bar Serapion's letter indirectly supports the historicity of Jesus, indicating that his life and death had an impact on society at the time, even beyond the early Christians. Furthermore, this letter explains how Jesus' death was interpreted and understood by others, particularly non-Christians, providing valuable insight into the broader historical and social influence of Jesus. Fifth, Phlegon. Phlegon was a Greek historian of the 2nd century who mainly wrote about chronology and the history of the Olympics. His works are cited by early Christian authors, especially Julius Africanus and Origen, in relation to the darkness and earthquake that occurred during Jesus' crucifixion. Specifically, Phlegon recorded an eclipse and the occurrence of darkness, which Julius Africanus interpreted as astronomical and natural phenomena related to Jesus' crucifixion. While Phlegon did not directly write about Jesus' life, early Christian authors used his records as external evidence of the natural phenomena that occurred at the time of Jesus' crucifixion. However, some scholars argue that the natural phenomena mentioned by Phlegon may not be directly related to Jesus' crucifixion but rather other events that happened around the same time. 6. Pliny the Younger. Pliny the Younger, also known as Gaius Plinius Caecilius Secundus, was a Roman magistrate, lawyer, and writer who lived from the late 1st century to the early 2nd century. He is known for his letters on various subjects, including his correspondence with Emperor Trajan about the investigation and persecution of Christians around 111 to 113 AD. In his famous letter to Trajan, Pliny describes the actions, beliefs, and worship practices of Christians, seeking the emperor's advice on how to deal with them. Pliny notes that Christians would gather at dawn to sing hymns to Christ as to a god, pray for each other, and pledge to avoid all forms of evil. These descriptions show that early Christians worshiped Jesus as a deity and adhered to moral principles. Pliny's records provide valuable insights into how the teachings of Jesus were understood and practiced by early Christians, and how the Roman Empire perceived and responded to early Christianity. 7th. Lucian. Lucian of Samosata was a 2nd century Greek satirist and writer from Syria known for his sharp wit and satirical style, which he used to critique various subjects, including society, religion, and philosophical thought. In his works, Lucian indirectly mentions Jesus and early Christianity through his references to early Christians and their behavior. In his piece on Peregrinus Proteus, Lucian describes how Christians highly revered Peregrinus, giving him money and treating him almost like a god. Though Lucian's perspective on Christianity is critical and often mocking, his accounts provide important evidence of the early Christian community's practices and beliefs. Lucian's writings show that Christians worshiped Jesus as a deity, followed his teachings, and exhibited strong communal bonds and dedication. Unlike other figures mentioned, Lucian mainly depicts Christians as irrational and mocks their beliefs, but his records still offer a glimpse into how early Christians were viewed by some contemporaries. 8th. Celsus. Celsus was a 2nd century Greek philosopher and one of the most vocal critics of Christianity. His primary work, The True Word, is considered one of the earliest comprehensive critiques of Christianity. Though the original text of Celsus's work has not survived, his arguments are preserved in the writings of Origen, who responded to Celsus's criticisms. Celsus dismissed Jesus' miracles as mere magic tricks and claimed that Jesus learned magic in Egypt. He also questioned traditional Christian doctrines, such as the virgin birth, viewing them as myths. Celsus's critiques provide important insight into the intellectual challenges and criticisms Christianity faced in its early years. His work highlights the diversity of perspectives on Christianity and the nature of the opposition it encountered. Testimonies from non-Christians about Jesus offer valuable lessons from various viewpoints. They confirm that Jesus' life and actions were not mere legends or fantasies, but historically based, and they show how non-Christians viewed Jesus. Jesus' teachings had a significant impact socially, culturally, and internationally, and belief in him transformed people's lives even after his resurrection. Today, we explored historical records outside the Bible and how non-Christians documented and testified about Jesus. Thank you for your time.